let's start.
And let me ask a two-part question. The first part is that your notion of diaspora on higher ed and the way you characterize the nature of how students become aware of their aware of themselves. It almost sounds like that is not possible to happen here. You have to go somewhere else to experience this. And so what is the role of an institution like the University of Guam in that context? And then the second part of it is a policy issue for people who want to invest in higher ed. When people go off island to go to school, only 1 out of 3 ever come back. So it makes it very difficult as a policy issue to see how to make those opportunities available to have that kind of awareness and, you know, in a different milieu, and then understanding that at the end of the day, maybe 2 out of 3 are going to be in California. We'll be part of a network, but it's not quite the same thing.
I forgot to ask you to promise me you wouldn't ask me a hard question. And you asked me too. But I'll give it my best shot. The first part of the question of what role does a university like UOG play? UOG plays a historic role because, you know, going back to your introduction and then my opening statements, the case of Chamorro diaspora is part of a broader phenomena of globalization of diaspora. And so UOG is the diasporic vantage point for other diasporas, like you said. And so it is within that context that, you know, this place is moving and shaking in ways that I described the U.S. mainland as moving and shaking. And so when I describe the U.S. mainland, universities on the U.S. mainland, as being a place because of the ambiguity and the invisibility in that place for Chamorros, that's the precise experience that non-Chamorro students are having here within another diaspora. And they're rubbing elbows, I think. It's possible that they're rubbing elbows with Chamorro students who are here, who have more visibility here on Guam. And so it's those kinds of cross-fertilization that I think will stir a similar thing going on here, if not more profound, precisely because of the unique cultural, geographic, and historical location of the University of Guam specifically. Right? Does that kind of get it there? And then as far, what was the second, the policy? That one I can't. Yeah, from an administrative point of view, right. Well, that was the question I was trying to duck earlier, before you asked it. So I'll do my best. Well, my first answer is that's not the question I'm asking, that there still can be a contribution regardless of the physical coming back. But the physical coming back, I mean, the university is a unique institution. I mean, that's, you know, we're not here because of the pay. You know that, right? We're here for other reasons. We're here for other reasons, and among those reasons is the freedom, the academic freedom to think outside of the box. And the university, as a system, being in that unique place, can fathom other possibilities. And I'm losing my train of thought on my answer to your question, but let me get back to it. Yes, help me out.
Students in the audience and then faculty as well. What advice do you have for both the students and the faculty, the individual faculty, in contributing to a raising of their awareness, of their consciousness? What advice to the student while they're here for 4 years, and what advice to the faculty as they engage their students? Most of the faculty aren't from here originally, and are working here and living here now. What advice would you have for us in terms of contributing to that further awareness raising that you believe is going on?
You know, this might be an oversimplified answer, but it's because of my own observations, not just here, but in academia. It would simply be to just really listen to people, listen to local people. And because we're in in a unique place of being empowered and being legitimate because we're academic people, not only listening, but resonating those voices within our own institution. And I say that half sarcastic because it's often the case that, at least in my observation, that that's overlooked. And not here, I'm not slamming UOG for not listening to students. I'm saying academia itself has a colonial and elitist foundation to it. And I think that the symptoms of that has to do with not truly listening to the communities that are served on the periphery of the campus, of whatever campus we're talking about. And so whether or not that is true here, still, that is my best answer, is to really listen to people. Listen, not just talking to academic people, but listening to everyday people on the island. So, oh yeah, yes.
I wanted to ask a question about notions of success. So I teach middle school, and I had some local filmmakers come and talk to my students. And one of the students asked, well, don't you feel bad because you're not going to be successful outside of Guam? Because their advice to the students were, whatever you do, always come back. And so it really opened up this whole conversation about success. And a lot of the students don't see Guam as a destination where they can be successful. And so, just hypothetically, how do you speak to that?
Yeah, well, that's another good question. These are excellent questions. I'm glad you're taking this in there. That's a contentious, the way we define success. I think that's within the framework of, if you want to be successful, you have to be an adventure taker, you have to be individualistic, and you have to make a lot of money, or have status, whether it's in the form of money. And so, my interpretation of that is that means going off island and having a career and doing better somewhere else. And that's the misconception. I mean, and some of you are wondering, well, why did you leave? You were a faculty here, and we tried to keep you. And it often has more to do with familial reasons. It often has more to do with healthcare. It often has more to do with, getting a quintuplet bypass surgery. Not me, but my dad. So it has, the reasons for me leaving, the reasons for a lot of people leaving, are not these status questions, but I think that is a perception. So because you're in education, I think that the best thing to do is dispel and deconstruct the myths of American meritocracy and individualism, etc. Because that is another symptom of colonization, when that is the prevailing wisdom in a place like Guam. It's ironic. It's ironic but understandable. So, early childhood education, I think, that plays a big role in that context. I remembered my answer to Robert's question. It's related to the other two questions. One of the things I hope that we can talk about is looking at formalizing relations between University of Guam and other universities, which you've already done, you've been doing for a while, but expanding those kinds of connections, whether it be study abroad or scholar abroad, etc. And those are physical ways that contributions can be channeled back to the island. That's just one response to that question.
Dr. Perez, I'd like to thank you for your scholarship and your presence this evening. And I think the fact that we have this thing here at the University of Guam says something about where we're going as a people, so to speak. I just came back from a tour in Iraq, and while I was there, I was addressed as Colonel Perez. When I saw Latino soldiers, I was called Colonel Perez. And when I came back home, I was then given the job back as Regent Perez. And so I was very, very tickled when you were talking about just that aspect of migration, diaspora, whatever you want to call it. One thing I didn't hear tonight was the language and its impact on our peoples, wherever they may be, whatever corner of the globe they may be. And let me tell you why, because it was an observation that I had when I was in Iraq.